let's talk about the history of Georgia. And just like the title said, the country. So the Georgia country. Of course, a lot of people that don't know about Georgia, it kind of sits in this interesting area next to Azerbaijan, Russia, Armenia, Turkey, kind of like all in that same region. Um, but, but, I think it's instrumental to learn. So let's jump right in, shall we? Epimetheus.
Sakartvelo, commonly known as Georgia, is
Right, whoa. We gotta close caption that.
Sakartvelo, commonly known as
It didn't even make the closed captions.
Georgia, is a nation of 4 million people located on the eastern shore of the Black Sea coast. It is nestled between two of the most formidable mountain ranges on Earth, the Greater and Lesser Caucasus.
Yeah, the Caucasus. I forgot to say that, but yeah, definitely, it's nestled right in that area.
Georgia is bordered by the nations of Armenia, Turkey, and Azerbaijan to the south, while Russia looms over the north. Iran is also nearby. On the larger regional level, Georgia lies between Eastern Europe and the Near East. Georgia is sometimes confused with the American state of the same name. While the state was named after George II of Great Britain, the origin of the country's name is a little more ambiguous. For many centuries, it has been commonly believed that the name was derived from the country's patron Saint George, the
That would make sense.
Dragon Slayer, while most
Dragon
modern
Slayer.
scholars hypothesize that the name is derived from a transliteration of the Persian word for wolf, with the country's name meaning Land of the Wolves. Sakartvelo, the country's native name, means Land of the Kartvelians. The Kartvelians are the indigenous people of the region, predominantly descended from those that have lived there since prehistoric times.
Ah,
More than 8,000 years ago,
Wow.
the fertile river valleys in this geographically isolated
oh, that's interesting. Those river valleys.
region provided a haven for growing a wide variety of crops, including grapes. Wine residue, found on ancient Georgian pottery fragments, is the earliest evidence of the delicious beverage found anywhere in the world.
Really?
Additionally, cows and pigs were also widely cultivated throughout the territory of what is now Georgia during prehistoric times. As the Proto-Kartvelians enjoyed their wine and steak dinners, a succession of imperial states to the south began raiding the prosperous land. The Hittites, Assyrians, and the Kingdom of Urartu all launched campaigns into the mountainous region. They successfully extracted tribute of livestock and metals, but were never able to dominate the land. In response to the foreign incursions, the Diowehi tribal union formed for mutual defense. Over
The Da'awi Tribal Confederacy. So, like, right around the Bronze Age collapse.
time, the battered border tribes became dominated by the interior kingdom of Colchis, which consolidated power over
Colchis.
much of the tribes by the mid-8th century BC. Colchis traded gold, iron, copper, timber, honey, and wine with the Greek merchants who braved the long voyage to Colchis. To the early Greeks, the kingdom was viewed as being at the edge of the known world. Colchis became famous for its peace and prosperity, as typified by the legend of Jason and the Golden Fleece, where a fancy sheepskin magically brought great wealth to the kingdom, before Jason stole it. Around 550 BC, the Persian Achaemenid Empire was the first imperial power to conquer and incorporate the region. Colchis thrived under Persian rule, as they became connected to the largest and most populated state on Earth at the time, which meant many more potential customers for Colchian products and raw materials. After more than 2 centuries of Persian rule, Colchis became independent again as Alexander of Macedon toppled the Persian Empire. Following a few chaotic decades, a second Kartvelian-speaking state was founded, the Kingdom of Kartli, commonly known as the Kingdom of Iberia.
Iberia. See, it's interesting because in this area we have like Caucasian Albania, and then we'll have Albania and the Balkans. When I hear Iberia, I think immediately of like Spain, right? So it's an interesting dynamic of names that are the same, but I should not distract to the fact that this is a very different place. So let's actually go back a little bit and then let's continue.
Of Persian rule, Colchis became independent again as Alexander.
And by the way, I think like his animation is kind of glitching a little bit. We'll ignore it, but I think that's just the video itself. I was like, is it on my PC? No, I think it's the video, but we're gonna still watch it. So try to ignore the little glitch that I keep saying.
Macedon toppled the Persian Empire. Following a few chaotic decades, a second Kartvelian-speaking state was founded, the Kingdom of Kartli, commonly known as the Kingdom of Iberia. The burgeoning kingdom enjoyed several decades of independence, which was followed by a long period of nominal foreign influence. First, Iberia maintained amicable relations with the Hellenistic Seleucid Empire that succeeded Alexander, before falling within the Parthian sphere of influence. Iberia then became an Armenian vassal, which itself was more often than not a Parthian vassal.
Yeah, I was about to say it's a Parthian vassal too.
The two kingdoms engaged in a centuries-long frenemy relationship, with lots of intermarriage and not too much familicide. Caucasus was also not spared from imperial entanglements. It was initially conquered for a short while by the ill-fated emerging Black Sea Empire of Pontus, before falling under Roman rule. Landlocked Iberia quickly developed very friendly diplomatic relations with the Roman Empire, who built fortifications for them at strategic locations. Their king was called Friend of the Caesars in a surviving inscription, and the people were called the Roman-loving Iberians, perhaps in contrast to the Iberians who didn't love the Romans so much, which is what the Romans called the original inhabitants of what is now Spain.
That's what I was saying. There's a difference there.
Iberia's relationship with Rome gave them leverage in their rivalry with Armenia. For 300 years, Armenia was usually the stronger power, the most notable exception being Pharasmanes I, who was able to exert control over Armenia and Albania. Not that Albania, but its doppelganger in the Caucasus. This
See another one.
Caucasian empire in the making was short-lived, and the Parthians helped Armenia defeat Iberia. During the more than 2 centuries of war between Rome and Parthia, the region was often the battleground for their rivalry, and the stage for their political intrigue. Colchis became fully incorporated into the Roman Empire as a province, before reverting into a semi-autonomous vassal kingdom called Lazica. Meanwhile, Iberia successfully leveraged the delicate balance of power between Rome and Parthia to gain full independence from Armenia. In the early 3rd century, the Sassanid Persian Empire usurped the Parthians and engaged in over 4 centuries of conflict with Rome. During this time, Christianity became widely adopted in Lazica and Iberia, with the latter making it the official state religion in the 4th century. In the face of overwhelming force, Iberia became a Sassanid ally. They later returned to the Roman way for 60 years, before being reconquered and forced into vassalage. Lazica was typically outside of the danger zone for the majority of the wars fought between Rome and Persia.
We'll pause here real quick. So it basically sees what I'm saying is these area that's not normal. Modern day Georgia is basically just like a pawn in the vassalship between the great powers, whether it be Parthia, Persia, or Persia Sassanid, whether it be Armenia, kind of like being big brother, and of course you have Rome, kind of like using this as like a pawn in these years.
It became the venue for a 20-year-long war. The Persians managed to conquer Lazica, but relinquished control of the kingdom in return for a yearly payment. Afterwards, Iberia's relationship with the Sassanid Persians gradually soured, as Zoroastrianism was made the co-state religion with Christianity. Discontent culminated in a series of rebellions which ended with Iberia being disestablished in the year 580.
Wow.
The Kartvelians continued to rise up in rebellion over the following decades, as Rome and Persia continued to wage war on each other, and its territory was split between Persia and Rome. Then, the Arab invasion and rapid collapse of the Sassanid Empire allowed Iberia to reunite.
Yeah, because I don't think the Arabs, specifically the caliphate, I don't think they went this north, so I think this area is going to be protected from that, at least.
Shortly afterwards, Lazica rebelled against the ailing and overburdened Eastern Roman Empire, establishing its independence, although Constantinople's influence was gradually reasserted. In the mid-730s, Lazica and Iberia were able to team up and defeat an Arab invasion. However, the land was devastated. Crops, cities, and towns lay in ruin, while the nomadic Khazars from the north raided the countryside for several decades. In the 770s, the Principality of Abkhazia united with the Kingdom of Lazica through diplomatic marriage and established the Kingdom of Abkhazia shortly afterwards. While Abkhazia solidified its power and rebuilt the region's economy and infrastructure, the Iberians were not so lucky. For exactly 3 centuries, the kingless nobles of the Principality of Iberia endured the brunt of foreign invasion. They managed to maintain a degree of independence, protected by their remote mountain citadels. While their
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the geography and their terrain is formidable enough to where it creates a deterrent, especially if you're able to arm such formidable terrain with fortresses and particularly defenses.
capital of Tbilisi was conquered and re-established as
Tbilisi.
an emirate, which
Isn't Tbilisi the capital of Georgia?
acted as the Arab base of operations in the Caucasus. They survived as a fractured, malcontented, and rebellious tributary for a succession of Arab empires, while suffering nomadic raids. By the late 9th century, nearly all of the Iberian nobility had been hunted down, slaughtered, killed in battle, or had been executed by the ruling Arab dynasties to the south.
Wow.
This left a power vacuum
So I'm guessing that's what the green area is.
that was filled by the
Obviously.
surviving Bagrationid dynasty. The family slowly consolidated power and re-established the Iberian kingdom in 888. Throughout the 10th century, the kingdom became divided between 3 competing branches of the Bagrationis family. By the end of the century, David, Duke of Tau, became the most powerful Bagrationi warlord in Iberia. He successfully raided and extracted tribute in nearly every direction, and sent troops to take part in 2 Byzantine civil wars,
Really?
during which time he gained and lost a large Byzantine border region. Through diplomacy and war, David arranged for his adopted son Bagrat to inherit both thrones of Abkhazia and Iberia. David was slain by a glass of poisoned communion wine. 8 years later, Bagrat III united both Kartvelian kingdoms into the unified kingdom of Georgia in 1008.
Okay, so that's when Georgia begins, 1008. Very close to the Turks coming through here too. So I'm going to see how that relationship pans out.
He secured his new nation's borders by allying with the Armenians to the south. Together they raided the eastern emirates and extracted tribute from them. To ensure his son George had a smooth succession to the throne, Bagrat imprisoned several of his potentially rebellious cousins. George I was ambitious. When the Eastern Roman Emperor Basil was busy slaying Bulgars in the west, George was able to annex the lands of Tau from the Byzantine Empire in the east. A few years later, this temporary success was reversed when met with the full force of Roman might. After George's death, the Georgians continued to squabble with the Romans. This is when the Seljuk Turks arrived. For decades, the Turks dealt the Romans devastating defeats, while the battered Georgians paid tribute.
Okay, so it was basically a tributary relationship.
Until David IV stopped paying tribute to the Turks, and later decisively defeated the Seljuk Empire in a major battle.
Wow.
He restored the Georgian kingdom's prosperity and greatly expanded its territory. David the Builder transformed Georgia into a great power and began the country's golden age, which came to a height during the reign of David's great-granddaughter, Tamar. At the age of 24, she became the sole ruler of Georgia, after spending 6 years as co-regent with her ailing father George. As a child, she witnessed her father defeat foreign invaders and emerge victorious in a brutal civil war where many of her family members slaughtered each other. Georgia's aristocratic clans chose a husband they controlled for the young queen to marry, and generally bullied her during her first 2 years on the throne. Meanwhile, Tamar built a loyal base of followers, which most importantly included the Georgian church. Then swiftly and without warning, she imprisoned, executed, or exiled her enemies, including her husband.
Wow. So very much similar to the beginning of the Rashiduns or the Umayyads, whomever it was, them doing the same thing to the nobles. But now, what year are we in? Like the end of the 12th century?
Whom she accused of being far too fond of strong drink, and the fellas he drank drink with. In an unprecedented move for the time, she divorced him and banished him from the kingdom. After crushing 2 minor rebellions, she chose her second husband, which was another unprecedented move for the time. Her husband David was a prince of the Christianized Iranian-speaking Alans, who were descended from nomads who had settled in the Caucasus.
Yeah, the Alans, the peoples, very similar to the Khazars.
Centuries before. Although subordinate in rank and authority to his wife, David was steadfastly loyal to Tamar, and a talented military commander. David led Georgia's armies on a cavalcade of successful military campaigns, expanding the kingdom into a proper empire. After
What?
the misguided Fourth Crusades, sack and occupation of Constantinople, Tamar helped establish the Protectorate of Trebizond, which was in name its
God dang this. God dang, look how big that is.
own empire. There, her younger sister reigned as queen, alongside a claimant to the Byzantine Empire, in exile, who was also one of her relatives who grew up in Georgia. Tamar's reign also saw the height of the Georgian Golden Age in art, academics, and architecture.
And land.
She also funded churches and monasteries throughout the Near East. A contemporary French chronicler wrote of the Georgians, "There is also in the East another Christian people, who are very warlike and valiant in battle, being strong in body and powerful in the countless numbers of their warriors. Being entirely surrounded by infidel nations, these men are called Georgians, because they especially revere and worship St. George. Whenever they come on pilgrimage to the Lord's Sepulchre, they march into the holy city without paying tribute to anyone, for the Saracens dare in no way molest them." With the remnants of the Byzantine, Eastern Roman Empire in serious decline, Tamar stylized herself as the defender of all Christians in the region. Among Tamar's many titles were King of Kings, Queen of Queens, Shah and Shah, Autocrat of all the East and West, and
So would you say Tamar the Great is possibly the greatest ruler of Georgian history?
Champion of the Messiah. Shortly after her death, the country was repeatedly invaded by the Mongols, and the empire shrank into its core territories, and then fractured. During the 14th century, Georgia had recovered, pulled itself together, and began to prosper again. Then, the warlord Tamerlane led 8
Oh, we gotta learn about him too.
Turco-Mongol invasions into the country. A devastated Georgia fractured into several small squabbling states in the aftermath. During the 15th century, the borders of these states constantly fluctuated, fell apart, and reformed. In the 16th century, these states became dominated by the Ottoman Turks in the west and the Safavid Persians in the east. The region became the battleground for these great powers. Different Iranian dynasties battled the Ottomans, but the battleground remained the same. As the Georgian kingdoms of Kartli and Imereti were right on the border regions of the warring empires, they did manage to maintain a relatively high degree of autonomy during the many conflicts fought in the region, and often tipped the balance of power in one direction or the other. By the early 19th century, a new great power, Russia, became involved in the Caucasus and consolidated their hold over the region throughout that century.
Ah, that's right. So you're gonna have Georgia up until the fall of the Soviet Union, most likely, right?
When the Russian monarchy was toppled in the early 20th century, the Caucasus went through several different governmental iterations.
Special Transcaucasian Committee, Transcaucasian Commissariat. Say that right? Transcaucasian Democratic Federative Republic.
In a short period of time, before the Democratic Republic of Georgia was established in 1918.
Oh, so it's a lot closer than, a lot earlier than I thought.
Random related fact. This Georgian fellow, nicknamed Koba, moved to the north and played a pivotal role in the global events of the 20th century.
That's Stalin.
Moved to the north and played a pivotal role in the global events of the 20th century. 3 years after it was established, the Russian Soviet army invaded and established the Georgian Soviet Socialist Republic. This lasted until the fall of the Soviet Union.
And that makes sense then.
In 1991, when the modern state of Georgia was established. A civil war soon followed that lasted for 2 years, which ended with the creation of the de facto states of South Ossetia and Abkhazia. In 2008, Russia invaded and established military bases in Abkhazia and South Ossetia. Today, Georgia is still an industrious land of strong people that make great wine. Also, if you are from Georgia or have visited there, what is your favorite thing to do or place to visit there? Or favorite local dish to eat? Let me know.
Yeah, let me know too. I don't know how many Georgians are watching right now, but I definitely would love to meet you in the comments and talk to me. Talk to me. But Georgia is a very proud people, it seems. In smudged in between the Caucasus Mountains and the Black Sea to your west, you have, of course, a lot of formidable nations that flank you, whether it be the regional powers of Armenia and Azerbaijan or the global powers of Russia and Turkey at your doorstep, and also Iran not too far away. It seems like there's a storied history here. We just touched the top of it. Interesting enough to hear that um, you had a queen who might have been the greatest ruler of your times, and then to see how large during your golden age your empire expanded, albeit there was a lot of power vacuums in the area, but nevertheless, very, very, you could say that about any expansive empire. I want to learn more, so leave me some video suggestions possibly down below about Georgia, specifically anything that might have been relevant to Georgia or the Caucasus at large. This is a very forgotten blind spot in history, the Caucasus, but very storied intersection between the North and the South. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out and bye bye.